just sit there, just breathe, we'll be back. And 20 minutes later they came back and said, Guruji wants you now. And I said, they took me up, put me on my feet. I was completely rested, felt great, and ready for the next whatever is going to come. After that, the third day, he said, I want you to come to India, and but only in the next year or year and a half. You need to do. I've looked at you, and I've worked with you, and so on. These are the sequences you need to work on. And he gave me page numbers, and how the sequence was to be played. So that's what I did. Then I told my family that I was going to India. Can you imagine the reaction of a family who is fairly comfortable having their oldest son, you know, the inheritor of all this, is going to India with a guru? What's a guru? Well, they made me sign papers, the attorneys, that I was only allowed to have $25 a week in India, and that I was under no circumstances to give any monies to anybody, anytime. He never asked me, in the 55 years that we were together, he never asked me for a penny. And that's why I don't charge. It's not money. It's the intent of taking control of your condition and doing something about it that's positive and fun to do and somewhat challenging, but what happens is you learn who and what you are because you did it. You reached out into the universe and you found something that you can do. The yoga that we came up with over the years was, I was the only person he had ever experienced MS with. Because in India they didn't have it. What they had was shaking leg disease. That's what they called it. But he never had worked with somebody with MS. So he was more interested in doing it sometimes than I was, because he wanted to learn from me what he needed to know to help me. And then to encourage me to help myself. You know? I don't like getting up early in the morning. I'm a Taurus, as I mentioned. I'm a creature of comfort. I like everything, all my ducks in a line, and I like my surroundings and my life to be comfortable. So I'm not one to walk out of the corral too often, you know? And I learned that it's okay to walk out of the corral because you can always go back, but you need always to go forward. And those were the lessons I learned. And over the years, in the beginning I went every year to India with no contracts, and nobody was bothering me anymore. And I always traveled with a group of other people that were going to study with him, so I was safe. And life in India can be a little dangerous, but you know, I learned how to avoid any kind of danger, and I love the food, and I like the fact that I didn't have to shave for 2 months, and I didn't have to wear a belt, because everything's drawstring, and you just put on a long shirt and pull up your drawstrings and put your sandals, put your Birkenstocks in, and hit the road. You're gone. It's great. So what I'm saying to you and sharing with you is the fact that physical exercise is good for us. When I was diagnosed, they said, go home, stay out of the sun, don't do too much. Don't do anything, in fact. Just sit around. Take care of yourself, you know? And part of what I learned in India was that I didn't need to eat meat to live. It wasn't necessary. And I became stronger, and I was leaner and stronger, and everything in my body was working better. And I learned that meat, I know that that's always a controversial subject, but it's not, it didn't agree with me. So I say, if you find that after eating meat you feel kind of funny and you start to smell, you know, that's why that's why everybody uses deodorant. You don't eat meat, you don't smell. You don't have bad breath either. Because it's just a process that our bodies have to go through that's not really very friendly, but that's my personal evaluation. But learning a lot about what lifestyle was, and that I needed to have every day a time, 20 minutes, half hour, to do something for myself. Setting aside a time and a place where I could do something that was positive for myself. Now, I'm going to ask Steve, you've been in my class a few times, what do you think?
I think you're kind of a mystic and nobody really appreciates
You think I'm what?
You're a special man.
Well,
when I take your class, it's half physical, but a whole lot more mental.
yeah.
And I find that you put me in a place that makes me feel a lot better. I don't have MS.
Yeah, but your wife did fairly well. She
As well,
enjoyed it, yeah. But I didn't do with Stevie, right? No, Sam. I didn't do with your wife what I did with Marianne,
Mary Ellen.
Call it Banks.
right?
Mary Ellen.
Who's Marianne?
She's another person.
She's another person, okay. So each person has a different set of activity, because you can't, it's not cookie cutter. It has to be, you and I are going to talk, and we're going to figure out what it is, and may I also encourage you as a man not to cross your legs. There you go. Do you want to ask me why?
I don't know if I do.
You're a smart guy, but we can talk about it. Men should never cross their legs, ever.
Why?
Anybody ask me why?
Why? I did.
Why?
Why? Because our equipment is outside.
Oh.
Ladies' equipment is inside. So when you cross your legs, all you're doing is tilting your female organs and cutting off any circulation going up either the right side of your pelvis or the left. Also, it affects the heart. But for men, it can be, we've got,
Stop.
and so they need to be
Free.
free. And you cross your legs, which leads to a diminished ability. Okay? That's why the Indians don't wear underwear. They wear drawstring trousers, but they're fastidious in their cleansing of the body. And they have multiple wives and children. So there must be some reason that we're missing in the West. But Haynes and Jockey and all those people are making a fortune. But so are the urologists who have to deal with men with testicular cancer. So we don't cross our leg. And we have to be polite that we don't do a man spread. But that normal is fine. Anyway, where are we going? What I'd like to share with you is the fact that there is an available programs. We're working on it, and I'll be teaching the middle of, I've had both my knees are replaced, and I'm so delighted. It's the first time I've had straight legs in my entire life. I've always been so bow-legged that most people thought the horse was still there. So I'm back up to 6'1½", And I have to have all my clothes fixed, of course, but, so my knees are doing fine, take it, and so I'll be ready to teach the middle of April. Now, TJ has come onto the scene, and he has we talked, and he's very anxious to do exercise with MSers, and I think that's good. So we're going to see if we can coordinate between the yoga and the gym. Is it, what do you call it? What do you call it?
Fitness, I don't know.
Do what?
Just moving,
Moving,
exercise,
exercise.
weights, cardio, flexibility.
But what do you call it? Come on, we're going to have to come up
The
with
Fortuna Protocol.
No, you don't ever want to put your name in it.
Okay.
Protocol for, no, P, there's protocol, then there's progress, isn't there? A protocol for progress?
Ooh,
Protocol.
I like it.
Progress.
You see, with straight legs, you think better on
I'm losing circulation somewhere. I don't know what's going on.
Quick.
That is funny.
That was good.
My wife has always encouraged me to go out and do this because she says, you know, you talk so much that I just need a half hour or so of quiet. But I don't want to, I'm through as far as I'm concerned, but if there is a spark of enthusiasm, then keep in touch with the Living Well with MS Tri-County, and we'll send out flyers. And all that I'm asking in my class is that you make a commitment and that you show up on a consistent basis. And then the miracles happen. It is no miracle that at 84 and 84 and 10 months, I'm looking forward to being 85. It's an even number. It's sort of transitional. And from here on in, it's going to be one hell of a trip. But I think that standing in front of you, and I'm proud to be an example of what can happen with MS, that it's not the end of the road, but what it is basically is an inconvenience, and you just need to deal with it, and then things happen on the other side. Other side of what? The other side of what? The other side of taking care of yourself. I go to my doctor once a year, just to make sure that I'm still alive, and that this is not an apparition, and that we talk, and he said, I wish that I was as healthy as you are. So what does that tell me? It tells me that I've found a way to deal with what this roll of the dice is, and that it's not difficult, and it doesn't cost too much, and it's easy to do, right, Mariella? It's easy to do. Mariella, you're still teaching at,
Monday.
you teach on Monday, yeah. Just a quick side story. I used to have a class here when the MS Society had a center here. I'd come up once a month for a workshop, and I brought all this equipment, bolsters, blankets, belts, that stuff. And when the MS Society left, my first question was, well, what happened to all the equipment? And they said they didn't know. Okay, cut, lap, dissolve. 20 years later, I go to Mary Ellen's class, and she opens the lockers, and there's my stuff. Now, I don't know how you got it, but I'm glad you got it, and it's in great condition, and I was so pleased to see it. And it was like being reunited with an old friend, you know? So I'd like to encourage you to form the class. I believe it's going to be here. Is that true?